Good morning. It's Friday, April 25th. We're happy it's Friday. Don't know why, but we are. We had a good week, long week, productive week. We're winding things down, but we're still seeming to get plenty of things going on. We have the honor this morning of having the Secretary, Agency of Agriculture, Food and Markets, at our witness table. And Anson Tebbetts, how are you this morning?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Senators. Great to be with you on a nice Friday as we get to close out April.
Well, the floor is yours, sir.
Good. Well, I'm here today. For the record, good morning. I'm Anson Tebbetts with the Vermont Agency of Agriculture, Food and Markets. Thanks for the opportunity to speak to you today about a new report, and we're calling it Vermont Dairy Delivers. It's a comprehensive data-driven look at how Vermont's dairy sector has evolved over the past decade, and it tells a powerful story about some innovation, impact, and resilience. Over the years, dairy has become more than just a tradition in Vermont. It's become a modern economic engine rooted in our rural communities and growing stronger every year. Today, dairy contributes $5.4 billion to our economy, and that's a new statistics that we have for you. According to USDA and their Economic Research Service, Americans consumed a record 661 pounds of dairy per person in 2023, the highest level since the 1950s. But it's not just milk anymore, and that could be the big change that I want to talk about a little bit. There's growing demand for value-added products, cheese, butter, yogurt, ice cream, whey powder, and yes, even cottage cheese is making a comeback. One of my favorites. We're seeing this national trend reflected right here in Vermont. A decade ago, we had 95 dairy processors. In 2023, that number rose to 158, a gain of 63 processors in just a decade. And it's not stopping there. Vermont dairy products are now exported across the globe, up to Canada, Europe, Australia, and beyond. Even though we're a small state, Vermont continues to punch above its weight in dairy production. We are ranked among the top 20 states and nation for milk production, and we produce 2/3 of all the milk in New England, helping supply major markets across New England and also into New York and New York City. And it's just not cow dairies. We're also seeing a rise in goat milk operations, sheep as well, as farms diversify to meet changing consumer preferences. Just a few highlights from the report. About 10% of all our farms in Vermont are dairy farms. 73% of Vermont dairy farms are considered small. That's fewer than 200 cows, 73% fewer than 200 cows. Industry supports about 17,000 jobs, everything from mechanics to veterinarians to cheesemakers to delivery drivers. And more than $810 million in wages and salaries are connected to Vermont dairy. But not all the news is rosy. We have lost too many farms over the past decade. Many reasons, including a federal pricing system that's complex and at times unpredictable. Our farmers have weathered a pandemic and 2 major floods and severe weather and are constantly battling the rising and unstable costs of inputs, whether it be grain or fertilizer or labor. Yet, in the face of some of these challenges, Vermont's farmers are committed to this profession and also committed to sustainability. A decade ago, our farmers began implementing new environmental regulations, and it's paying off. According to this report, Vermont's dairy sector has become the leading driver of improved water quality in the state. Our farmers are proving that you can care for the environment while producing world-class products, even under immense pressure. At the heart of all this are the people, our farmers, their employees, the processors, truck drivers, veterinarians, and feed suppliers, and so many others. The entire network that makes up Vermont's dairy economy. Rugged job, but rewarding in many ways. And together, the dairy farmers are keeping our land productive, keeping the economy strong, and our communities vibrant. And if I could leave you with one headline from this report, is that dairy does deliver. It's here. It's important. Deserves our respect and smart policies that allow it to thrive. So I invite you to take a closer look at this report. We have it online, but we also have a nice booklet for you with some statistics in it. And we've seen that Vermont dairy delivers. Again, thank you for the opportunity to share this story. Hard work, innovation, and proud legacy of dairy Green Mountains.
Well, thank you. Very inspiring news, to be fair. We've been saying that agriculture is 5.4 billion, but dairy is 5.4 billion. So the effect of agriculture is even greater than what we've been telling the story about. So very, very rewarding news. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Anson, this is a great report. Two things I note right off the bat. It's interesting too, 82% of Vermonters, when asked, would they pay a little bit extra for local products, said yes.
Thank you.
And that's kind of in the, I know we've tried to find a way to do it. The federal milk order is such that, because I don't know where it is, I'm guessing it's in the low 20s right now per hundredweight, somewhere there. And so it's there. There's nothing we can do about that, but we've always tried to figure a way, at least in this committee, to add just a little bit more to the price if it's Vermont milk. And we haven't been able to figure that out yet. I know some of the other states in New England, I think Maine has a little bit different setup. But the other thing, and I didn't see it in here, but that you mentioned it, unfortunately, farmers in Vermont are always, not always, I got to phrase this so it's accurate. Oftentimes, Vermont farmers are blamed for what we have wound up in the lake, the phosphorus, whether it's legacy phosphorus or the continuing discharge into the lake. And so your statement that Vermont is leading the way, I think you put it that way, in the clean water standards, I think is really important, because I think farmers get picked on all too often for things that they don't really do. They've really taken that charge to work hard to make sure that what they're doing on the land does not add to pollutants into the lake. So those are the two things. So I wish we could find a way to, I don't know, another nickel, another dime to buy a Vermont product that's made here or originates here, whether that's milk or other dairy products. And secondly, hats off to the farmers for the work they've done and continue to do to clean up the lake. So
yeah, a decade ago they were just beginning the new environmental regulations, and farmers are heavily regulated. They have nutrient management plans. Many of them, they have buffers where they can spread, not spread. They also all large dairies are inspected at least once a year from us. Medium farms are inspected. Also, small farms are inspected. So they have their nutrient management plans, and they've had to invest tremendously in infrastructure to contain manure and make sure it's held properly, because they have to hold it because of our climate. Cannot be we don't spread manure in wintertime. So we have to have systems that keep it there from till April 1 and through December 15th, April 1. So all that stuff, and farmers invested in that. I think that the challenge is it's going to take some time to get to a point where everyone is comfortable with it. But I sense that our farmers are really familiar with all the regulations now. It took some time for everyone. It took us some time to figure out what we were doing as well in the first couple of years of rollout of the new regulations. And on the pricing system, you're correct. We've tried to figure that one out, but we export so much of our milk, we probably can't capture it from other states. I figure I added 64%. And the other option is we have many more farmers than, say, Maine does, or Massachusetts. And the attrition rate in those states is about the same as ours as well. So it's a number of factors. And of course, the economy could be one. Could be, I think the statistic in here is the average age of the farmer is about 57 now. So there's we need to do a lot of work with transitioning and figuring out and passing the farm down to either a family member or getting someone else to do it farming. So yeah, it's a complicated system and you know, we've never been able to quite figure that one out, but there are some consumers, as you mentioned, that are willing to pay more. From time to time, if they know, but pay more for a product.
Ben and Jerry's a pretty good example. I mean, you have to almost save up now to be able to buy a pint of it. But, people do, and they pay a lot more than they do for, I'm not using other brand names, but the regular stuff. And so I think if you show people there's the added value in a particular product, especially if it's locally originated, they're willing to pay the price.
So, one, I gotta thank you for guiding me through shark infested waters of actually milking a cow and not getting kicked in the head. One of the things about dairy farming that I find I can't wrap my head around. We're producing more dairy just about than ever before, but our dairy farms are shrinking. Why is that? How? Yeah, I'm not understanding that.
Yeah, and I kind of look at it this way: is that sometimes it's economies of scale. So, and the federal pricing system, if I could go back a little bit, the federal pricing system is it goes from month to month. So, you know, a lot of us in the world know what our paycheck is going to be every week or every couple of weeks. You know, you're paid a certain price. In the federal system, which was started many years ago, decades ago, it goes month to month, and the farmer doesn't really realize what they're going to get paid for until 30 days after they've delivered their product. So think about that. And it could be based on supply and demand. And of course, it's a global economy. So I think about 17% of dairy is exported. The United States produces too much dairy for all its people, much like Vermont. We have to export. So if there's a disruption in a particular country that I'm going to buy Vermont dairy, that dairy has to go somewhere. So that usually means there's a surplus and maybe the price will go down to the Vermont farmer. And so it's part of it. And you've seen consolidation from time to time. We've seen it in media, we've seen it in banking, we've seen it in just about everything, economies of scale. And farmers are kind of in that space as well. So sometimes farmers have decided to be specialized. So their model, they couldn't expand. Maybe they're in the hills of Windsor County and they can't expand, but maybe they could put on a processing facility, so processing with their own milk, and cheese or butter. So we've seen that, and that's some of the expansion we've seen in the processing. And then so that's an option. And I think sometimes the people that are most at risk are sometimes maybe in the middle. And processing a value-added product is not for everybody. It's not just it's you got a lot more regulations, you got food safety, then you have to market your product. So it's not for everybody. And some farmers, they want to be able to farm and sell their product to one of the two major co-ops, one being DFA, Agrimark / Cabot with the Cabot brand. And then, I don't want to leave the impression just that, large ones are, doing well. There's also many tight margins in that as well. So I think what we need to do is just make sure that we have policies that, hey, look, they are important. We don't want to lose any more than we possibly can, and that we do have some control over that, whether it be taxes, regulations, or affordability. You guys are talking about housing and education, big scale over at the legislature. That's important to some community as well. They have a lot of land, they have a lot of taxes. So that, and another part of it is they're really important because they're in the community about 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So they serve on our select boards, they serve on our school boards, they serve on our fire departments, our rescue spots. So that's all kind of the network out of it. And then there's, it's tied to tourism too. If we don't have productive agriculture land, it impacts our landscape, and people come to Vermont to ski and see, and we hope they enjoy our Vermont products and they go back, you know, and they were online and buy some more. And that happens a lot. So it's all kind of connected.
And I think, getting these products to the masses of people, I think are very important. I think that, a lot of people can scale. It's the only way they're going to scale. You can only sell so much to 640,000 people. You've got to be able to get that product down into the masses of people. And over and over and over again, it's what we hear. It's what we're hearing in here. It's what I had some conversations the other night. And I said to him, I said, listen, you got to get your product on that truck. You got to get down there. You got to move it out. It's what you got to do. Get it out there. If you have a good product and get it down into the masses of people, they'll buy. And, I think that's one area that we can help. I mean, the farmers themselves, the dairy producers, they have what they have. But as they're looking to grow their markets as well, if they're doing specialty product, that's important too. But also into not just dairy, but just into the produce people, everything agriculture that people are producing. We got to make sure that we can do everything we can do so they can expand our markets. And I think we work hard on that, but that's an area of growth where we can look for more.
If I may, and obviously this has been in the news, and I'm sure this is not just dairy, not just farming, but dairy farming as well as workforce and the struggle that they're having. What are you hearing from the farmers as far as this is concerned? I'm sure what has happened recently is not helping. Yeah, I would put labor, right at the top of the list of concerns of our farm community, whether it be they're growing vegetables, whether it be a sugar bush, or whether they're milking cows and doing crops. Labor is just don't have enough workers, and that's part of it. So some have turned to foreign labor, whether it be through the seasonal program, our apple orchards that provide seasonal workers to come, say from Jamaica. Maybe they're here 10 months and they must return on their visa for 2 months. There's lots of regulations with that of wage and also providing housing, transportation and all that. And then for a very long time, some of our dairy farmers have relied on workers to come here and help, whether it be in the barn milking cows or helping with crops or helping with sugaring now. That's extended to housing, it's extended to hospitality as well. So, and this is consistent across the country. Vermont is not alone in this. You figure there's, I think there's a little section in this about labor, and we figure anywhere from 750 to 850 probably migrant labor working in the dairy industry. And there's some family members also connected to that. We think maybe 150. Connected to that. So we don't have these wonderful products without the help of migrant labor. So it's a sensitive and difficult subject for every our workers that are here and also our farmers. But there are small farms that maybe have 100 cows, and they're also having to rely on help for migrant labor because the days of farms maybe hiring someone locally, that has not happened. So, and farmers have said that they've repeatedly advertised for help and have not been able to get local help. And I think part of it is there's just so many choices now. We have so many choices of jobs that maybe we didn't have 40, 50 years ago.
It's a hard job.
It's a hard job, but I did see a post from a farmer from Randolph, and she says it's also very rewarding. Very rewarding job. It's something that we also should think about. It's not all difficult work all the time. There are rewards to that. You are close to the land. You're close to animals. You're up early in the morning. You see things and stuff. So that's another part of it. And we're trying to work on apprenticeships as the Northeast Dairy Business Innovation Center. Been trying to figure out because I do see some people that may have not been in agriculture who want to get into agriculture. There's a little bit of that back to the land movement. You probably see it in your communities as well. Someone that has not had no experience in agriculture may want to take a stab at it. So we're trying to encourage that, but that takes some knowledge and maybe hooking up someone that wants an apprenticeship with a farmer. So we've kicked out a proposal to the Innovation Center to look at some of those across the region. So hopefully that will bear some fruit, whether someone wants to be a cheesemaker. Some of our cheesemakers are getting long and aging and they want to, retire. So we're hoping we carry on with that brand or that company as well. So it takes a lot of training, and sometimes apprenticeships really determine whether this is for you or not for you before you take the big plunge, whether you really want to do it or not. So spend a year on a farm, spend a year at a cheese making facility and decide if it's for you or not. And then maybe hook on, get a job, or start your own business or buy something.
So the news of more producers is welcoming news as far as in our state. That's surprising to me.
Yeah, it's we've had probably our biggest, we've got big national brands. You've got, Ben & Jerry's, which buys milk from DFA farmers. We've got Vermont Creamery, which has a butter line and has a goat dairy. And then you've got Cabot, which is a national brand, lots of cheese and butter and various products. And then you have, a place like Jasper Hill that started 15 years ago, small, but now it's grown into a somewhat national brand. And then there's some that may just want to have 50 cows and turn that milk into a product. And maybe 3 days a week, that milk is sent to Cabot, DFA, and that income is there. But that takes a lot of infrastructure. So we've been working on, either through the Innovation Center or through the Working Lands program, some of those things to make it more affordable. It's maybe buying that pasteurizer, or maybe in the case of labor, from time to time we may we'll support a robotic milking. And that helps all. Those systems can be quite expensive, but we have one in Leesburg, a manufacturer that sells those. But it could be someone that wants just one of those robots, and that allows essentially maybe 4 hours a day that farmer can free up and have a better quality of life, but also can do other things on the farm that they don't have time to do if they're not tied to milking those cows twice a day. So anything that we can do to support long-term investments with infrastructure, whether it's systems that help clean the barn, or whether it's robotic milking, maybe it's innovative manure spreader. We've seen technology with GPS on collards and fencing, et cetera, like that. And of course, in water quality, we have a number of grants either through the federal government or the state system that helps with some of those infrastructure needs to comply with water quality.
So just to go back to Joe's question, I went back. Part of it is the consolidation that the Secretary referenced. So we have fewer farms than we did 20 years, 30 years, 40 years ago for sure, but more cows. So they're bigger, the farms and there's only about 10% of the whole dairy industry that's over the 700 mark. So that comes with inherent risks too. And you've got to always balance how big do you want to get versus, how many people do you want to employ, all that kind of thing. The largest farm in Vermont was the one referenced earlier in Berkshire, where we had, some unfortunate event happen with the 8 migrant workers that are taken off. I think Four Hills in Bristol's about 2,500. And that farm in Berkshire, I think, is 3,000 cows, somewhere in that neighborhood. It's the largest farm. That's a lot of gamble and risk, if you will, because if you don't balance everything, and the margins are so thin that if the FMO, the federal market order, changes drastically in a month, you're really in a tough. In other words, the smaller farms are a little more nimble and better able to respond, I think, quickly. But anyway, one of the things that and you can have your own feelings about what happened up in Berkshire. I don't know whether it seems as though there's at least a question as to whether those migrant workers were really just working and kind of got surprised. Hey, how you doing? But nobody seemed to think about the farmer. What does the farmer do the next day with 8 fewer employees? How does he or she continue to do what they have to do to make a living? So I just wanted to make that point, I guess. But so fewer farms,
Yeah.
more cows, more product for sure, but with it, a balance, and you gotta really think about stuff.
And, you know, kind of watching, you know, kind of the news stories. It just, something that came out of it that I really didn't think about. Farmers 24 hours a day,
Mhm.
you know, it is 24 hours a day. Workers,
365 days. a
Yeah.
year.
and
Cows don't take Christmas off.
yeah. And it's, and I just didn't, you know, you just don't think of it in that way.
Yeah.
And that's part of the challenge with, we have the visa programs that allow, people to come here and work, but they have to return. And the challenge that farmers have faced on dairy, it's not seasonal.
Yeah.
So that's why they have not been able to qualify under those programs. So
Yeah.
there's no break on it. So I think, long term, we hope we can at some point put some pressure on Washington to think about this and really, okay, what an opportunity right now if we could all come together and figure this out, because essentially it's not a partisan issue. It's in every single state where we need support for agriculture. And so I know it's not been easy. There's been starts and stops, but what an opportunity for the next year or two if we could figure this out.
I just think it's too much of a clickbait for both parties to argue about it and make too much money on it. I hope that someday they can do with what we do in this room, let's put politics aside and do what's best for dairy or agriculture. And I'd love to see that.
Well, I'm sorry, just, and one more thing that I learned, and, it's funny when you get in this committee, I had no background in any way, shape or form in agriculture. But I did know we had 2 presidents come from Vermont. One was a dairy farmer in my district. And so I went to visit yes, I went to visit, and it was
And a nice cheese.
yes, and bought way too much cheese. And it was very, very cool. It was very, very cool.
It's a wonderful place, and they've got a new retail outlet down
Yeah.
at Bridgewater where people can come and purchase it too. But yeah, what a wonderful and those are the ones that we hope to support more and make sure that they can get out to a system where people with means can buy that cheese and maybe through the mail. Seeing a lot of Vermont products now, just like everything else, go through the mail, and that speaks to the quality, because we're not going to be the biggest in the world, but we can be the best, and we are the best with our Vermont products, whether it be cheese or maple or produce. That's what we got for this.
Secretary, we have a little bit of a resolution that you quickly scanned.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering how we felt about that, as if it's something that we could proceed with, or if you wanted to make any changes, or you wanted to take longer time with it. It's just a resolution, but it's again, just wondering if it's something that we could proceed
Yeah,
with.
and this one's related to bird flu and a vaccine.
Yes.
Yeah, and I know there's tremendous, stepping back on the bird flu side of it, on the avian side of it. We've had a few backyard flocks that have been that have had it and had to be taken care of, but we haven't had any commercial, any commercial flocks, but across the country, not the case. So, and there's a lot of, the latest I saw from USDA, they had put out a proposal to work with research facilities to work on a vaccine. And a lot of I think the main issue related to vaccines, some countries do not take our poultry, whether it be turkey or chicken, because they don't want a vaccine. So there's some trade implications related to it. But I think the latest proposal I saw from USDA they do want to focus on it, and they're asking for universities and research facilities to work on a vaccine. And I'm not completely versed in all the ins and outs of it, but it is of considerable interest. I know USDA to try to finish. There's $1 billion program that they released in last month to try to get a handle on what's happening with poultry. And then we got the dairy side as well, which so far has been pretty quiet in our region, but across the country, there's still some regions that are still dealing with it. And hopefully this be a quiet migration and be okay here. But biosecurity is number one for all of us. That's really important, particularly on the poultry side, the dairy side, and so forth. So yeah, that's kind of what I want to know about them. But I see your resolution essentially calls for look for a vaccine, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
No, I appreciate it. Big weekend for sugar makers. It's the up in Franklin County. It's the weekend of the Maple Festival, starting today at noon and going through the weekend. A big parade at the end, but I think it was a close call. I think some sugar makers are just cleaning up.
Yeah.
It was a kind of a long season for a lot of them, but from what I understand, most are reporting
Good year.
pretty decent crop. Not record breaking, but they maybe met their margins they wanted to hit. Not everybody, and of course, it's all weather related. In some places are better than others, but we'll know in June. But we'll know in June that Vermont made best and the biggest crop in the United States.
Yeah.
So we can brag, right?
Yes, we can. And we are very fortunate to have a secretary as what you are. I think you've cloned yourself. You're everywhere, and you're involved. And we're very fortunate to be able to assist you in any way. And also put a plug in for this committee. I know there was sort of trepidation as far as what we knew and what we didn't know, including from myself, because it changed so much. But we've learned and we're learning, we're listening. We are a committee of people who are putting agriculture first for what we have, and very proud of what the committee's accomplished. We've navigated a very, very tough, complex water rules, basically negotiating with all the players in the field, and we come out on the top side of that, at least on the Senate, and that didn't come without a lot of thoughtfulness from the committee. So I'm very proud of what the committee is, and I know the committee is very focused on how they could best serve agriculture in the state of Vermont, and it helps by having somebody that's in the same way. And we appreciate you.
Well, thank you. You're making progress, and it's not easy getting a bill passed in this legislature. It's We've been on a good day. Sometimes there's so many angles and something, but we've been delighted to work with you, and I know the staff and everybody. We stand ready to continue to take you down the stretch here. I know you've got a few more weeks, but we're standing ready to do that and over the summer and whatever. But if there's anything you folks need, let us know to help. And if there's some follow-ups on this report or any report, we're stand ready to support you in your decision making. So appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. Thank you very much. Have a great day, and hopefully.
Thank you for the wonderful book.
Yeah, and
That's
I
very
got one
nice.
extra here. I don't know if it.
Yeah.
So, and I've got many more. If constituents want them, just let me know. We can send over a box or two if you need to distribute them. That would be great. So, and it's online as well. So,
You check the link online.
yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Anson.
All right. Bye-bye.
Gonna 10 o'clock, so we can talk about this resolution. I suppose it's in a bill form, so we'll have to make a decision on it. Anson, Secretary Bevitz read it, kind of gave his thumbs up to it before, and then he just, as you heard, doesn't seem to have any concern with it, but I'm sure that we don't have any concern with it. What's the committee's pleasure? You wanna
Just produce it.
introduce it, vote it out, move it along, or you wanna spend more time with it? You want more witnesses in it? What would the committee like?
I think it's
All good?
Yes.
Well, and this,
Who would draft? Sure. Draft it.
Okay.
It's well done.
He usually does, but I don't know if he does or what, so. You know what, I suppose we might as well we can wait for Steve. Steve's
Oh,
back
that's
next week,
true.
right?
He'll be back.
So, yeah, so we'll let him have a say on it, and then we'll have him do the,
Okay.
call it out, so we'll put it on the agenda for next week to vote it out. We gotta have, Ellen back in here and, at 10 o'clock. You want a few minute breaks before we go? I don't really have unless somebody has to bring something up. Okay, well, let's